everybody. So I'm super excited to take you guys on our almost mid-June garden tour. Life has just been busy with kids and just everything. So we are super behind on our weeding. So you're gonna get a real life glimpse into a weed full of garden, and then hopefully this week, as things slow down, we'll be able to get in there and weed. But I wanted to bring you along today because it's not going to be long before we start harvesting quite a bit of things, especially the first round of potatoes. So I wanted to bring you along before we start pulling those out and start succession planting. But the first thing I wanted to bring you guys up to date on is my green stalk. I will be completely honest, my attempt at growing stuff inside right here has completely failed. The issue that I had is not being able to thoroughly water without getting water all over my or all over my laundry room. So we did move it outside. I did replant some herbs that I picked up, but I wanted to kind of show you guys number one, my epic fail, and then number two, how I am restarting on this. So I've only had a couple of things that I originally planted succeed. This little kale plant here is not doing super great. Most either look like this or just completely petered out and died. I only have a couple of the original strawberry plants that I planted. The rest I don't think made it. Ultimately because of the inability to thoroughly water inside without water going everywhere. I bought a plastic pan to catch the water, but after even just one water every day, it was completely full, and so I wasn't able to just keep it thoroughly watered through like it needed to. So I went ahead and grabbed some herbs from a local shop and replanted some heat-loving herbs. This deck where this is at right now gets full sun all day long, and it gets really, really hot. So I put in some basil because basil loves the heat, and rosemary, some various herbs, parsley, and then I also put in just some pretty flowers. I am rotating it so this kale gets some sun, and then I rotate it so it doesn't get super hot, but put some herbs in, or I'm sorry, flowers in. And then I also, this is cilantro. Cilantro is a cold loving plant, so it kind of ran its course. Then I also, just for the heck of it, planted a celery stalk that I had. And so it's starting to grow some lettuces, but they're not doing very good. I'm gonna keep messing with it. I know people have lots of success with green stalks, so I'm not gonna give up on this thing yet. I think it's just a combination of not enough dirt and not enough water. The next place I'm gonna bring you guys up to date is the kids' snack garden. Theirs is doing super great. Lexi's strawberries have started putting on. We've picked a couple. But it just takes a lot of strawberry plants to make anything, a large quantity of strawberries. They've had a couple with a couple different breakfasts. The green beans, I think these are yellow beans, are doing awesome. I don't see it long before they start to put on blooms. DJ's cucumbers are doing good, especially these ones out towards the sunshine. This is one of the ones that they bought, and you can see he's got little cucumbers growing. There's a little chunky one, but I foresee him probably having cucumbers for their kids business fair that they're going to be a part of come the 24th or 25th, whatever that Saturday is, of June, and so that's super exciting. All of these tomatoes and marigolds back here are part of that project. We're gonna get his pots ordered and get those up potted soon. But Spencer's tomato plants recovered really, really well. He's actually got some blooms on them. We let that sucker that I was telling you about in the last video grow, and it has just done amazingly well. It's almost like a second tomato plant. So I'm just gonna let it keep going since this one seems to be doing good. His other little tomato plant, lots of fresh growth on it, so it's super exciting. I'm just gonna let those grow. I'm not gonna prune the suckers or anything on those and just let them grow. Last year his cherry tomatoes did great without pruning, so we're gonna let them go. Next up is Lane's sugar snap peas, and they're doing pretty good. He's starting to get some blooms on them. we had to have a conversation with him on his watering, because he really watered these front ones really, really heavily, and then started doing a creative watering on these bottom ones. And you can see they're just not doing so good. And so part of it may be the dirt levels, but I think some of it has to do with him just not thoroughly watering that end. So we worked on that, and I think they're going to recover good. Lexi's strawberry plants are starting to send out runners, but these ones have put on some strawberries as well. We actually picked a couple this morning and put on their Dutch babies that we had for breakfast. And then Lane's poppies are doing good. I'm going to have him come out here and head these, but they have done just absolutely beautifully. So I'm really, really proud of how the kids have just maintained their garden really, really well. Where theirs is a raised bed, thankfully they're not having to fight weeds. My garden, on the other hand, we have an abundance of weeds. We grow some produce and lots of weeds. So before, like I said, before we start weeding and pulling potatoes and things out of the ground, I wanted to bring you guys along down here to the big garden and show you what we've got going on. All right, this first row here is the row of sunflowers, and I'm excited. It's gonna take a while till these actually start to look lovely and beautiful, but lots of them. I'm just gonna let them grow. They're probably not spaced as expected or as told. But there are some seeds in here that I bought, but a lot of these are seeds that I've saved from past sunflowers. So I'm just gonna let them grow, and then plant some other flowers along the back side of this, and just let this be a pretty place. Bring pollinators in and just look aesthetically lovely. There's a lot of green on our property, but there's not a lot of color because of, you know, everything is green. So this will just bring some added color, some enjoyment hopefully for my neighbors and those drive by, and ultimately for me, because it's just pretty. I'm not 100% sure what is going on as far as the germination of this. I'm not sure if it's not getting watered thoroughly or what, but I have a couple, these are gonna be sugar pumpkins. Again, we grow lots of weeds here. So this will all be gone hopefully next time we have a garden tour. But we have some pumpkins that are starting to grow. And then if I don't get some germination on down into this lower part of the bed, I'll replant to see if we can't get a couple more down in here. I may even start seeds in the greenhouse and then transplant them out here just to ensure that they're actually germinating. On the other side of this trellis, my trombonzino plants are doing awesome. They're actually there's probably too many here. And so I may add another trellis and transplant, or I may just let these guys do what they do. And if they don't produce a ton, I'll learn from next time. But these are starting, I'm gonna watch them. They're starting to discolor and just see what's going on. But I'm excited. It'll be fun to see how well they do. See if they're overcrowded or if it's the soil's too mulchy or whatever. But again, that's something fun. That's something I'm experimenting with. So we'll see. This next row, we had a bit of an issue with a cow having a rebellious moment. And she decided to get into the garden and found my little corn plants. So in amongst all of these weeds, I do have some corn, and overall I had really, really good germination. It's hard to see the plants because of the weeds, but hopefully this week we'll get that taken care of. But most of the seeds germinated really, really well. So I'm hoping that they will recover from Miss Thing's buffet feast. And we'll see how the corn does. The next row, I'm really, really excited. You'll probably hear me say that a lot, but my beans are doing awesome. These are, I believe, the purple beans, and then on down the row, the green beans or yellow beans or whatever the beans are, they're all just doing extremely well. And so hopefully before long, we'll start seeing some blossoms and getting some beans for some eating and preserving. I think I probably say the word I'm really excited about, or the phrase I'm really excited about a lot. But there's just something about last year, our garden did not do well. We had a ton of rain. I had run the pigs through our garden, which, because we had had a really warm winter, that caused all of their bedding to just get mashed directly under the ground, about 6 inches, which on a drought year wouldn't have been a big deal. It would have actually been really beneficial. But last year, with all the rain we had, everything just flooded. And so if I say I'm really excited about this row a lot, just bear with me, because I think there's something about having lots of joy when you're in something that you're in a lot, like the garden. And so I'm not going to apologize for that, because I'm really, really excited. Like with this row, last time I showed you, this is my tomato row, and it was just a flop. The tomato plants did not look good, but I gave them a couple, I gave them 2 servings of that organic plant food that I purchased, and they're all just doing marvelously. I came through and stocked a bunch of these up, but they're just doing really, really good. Some of them grew bigger than I realized, so I'm kind of trying to let them right themselves up before I attach them anymore. But they recovered lovely, and I'm very, very excited to get these weeded and get these guys trellised up even more, and to see how good they do. The stalks look really healthy. Like I said, I came through and pruned a bunch of these the other day. This is a little short, stubby guy, but he looks like his stalk looks really, really healthy. Can't see past that really nasty looking plant leaf. But I'm very, very pleased with how these guys have recovered, how thick and healthy their stalks look. Even this little guy, I told you this guy probably wasn't going to make it, but he's had some regrowth. Like, he's looking like he might, hello, where are you? Here you are. He's looking like he might recover, which would be pretty cool. So we're just going to let him jam and do what he's thing. Got some basil. My peppers are still doing pretty puny, so may give them a little more love with the feed. But my parsley is bounced back. My eggplant that I have is getting demolished by bugs, so I'm not sure what's going on with them. But I've never grown eggplant before, so I have lots of learning to do. This is that fill row of beans that I planted. So they're a little further behind than that other row I showed you, but they're doing well. The germination was surprisingly good, considering I don't actually know how old these seeds were. And then here at the end, I'm leaning towards potentially zucchini that these volunteers are. But I guess we'll see if they're actually zucchini or hybrid gourd or something as they get further along. The next row are the last little handful of potatoes that we planted just to finish out the bag. They are doing good. I'm noticing some random bug stuff, so I'm going to get out here with a bucket of water, start picking off pests for the chickens. But then the other little batch of beans at the end of this are really, really, really doing well. So we've had, over the last couple of weeks, really, really dry conditions, but on Monday and Wednesday of this week, we've had this beautiful, almost like a spring-like drizzle, where the ground has been saturated and soaked, but it hasn't caused like massive flooding on the property where water's just standing. So I'm hoping that this little bit of rain, and then I'm also going to water the garden out of the rain barrels, that the natural minerals from the rain will really just kickstart the garden up really, really well. Again, it's hard to see because of the weeds, but my pepper plants on this row are doing a lot better. They're bigger, they're a lot greener, they just look more prolific. So it may just be varying in soils, or it may just be that these guys are just healthier plants. I'm not a huge botanist. I love plants, but I don't know a ton about them. This is basil. So I'm still learning how to diagnose what's going on our plants. But these are tomatoes, Romas, and then on down here, my Cherokee purples actually have blossoms on them. So that's super exciting. And then this little cherry tomato down here actually has little friends. Where are you? Can you see? Get you to focus. Maybe. Let's see. There we go. Little cherry tomatoes on them. So that's, I can't wait. I can't wait to have fresh fruit that the kids can just come out and pick. But anyway, we've been munching on basil and then these pepper plants. Like I said, some of them are looking awesome. And then some of them, you can tell we need to get the weed pressure off of them because they just look a little sad. But I learned like a brilliant, super simple idea to like mix up your salad greens. And I'm like, how come I've never thought of this? But I saw a lady. So when your lettuces are on, you don't have a ton of things to add to your salad, right? But you have a lot of herbs. And so instead of having like tomatoes or cucumbers to add to your salad for like a spring salad, add all of your extra herbs. So we've been adding basil and parsley, and I added a little bit of fresh rosemary that's not really woody to our salads. And it's just like a random bite of something different. It adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of flavor change to the lettuce. And I'm really kind of bummed I haven't thought about that before, but it's a brilliant way to not have to buy things to add to your salads, that you can process stuff from and harvest stuff from your garden. But it makes it more than just another bite of lettuce, which, don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for. But a whole salad of nothing but lettuce kind of gets a little boring by the end. And so those added just little bites of herbaceous deliciousness really mixed up. So I was super excited. So we've been adding just a leaf here and there of the basils. So that's helped make it a little bushier, but it also doesn't let these big leaves at the bottom go to waste where you don't have enough for like a full recipe. So that's been super awesome. I hope that I never get tired of learning new things like that. Like just simple adding herbs to your salad. So simple, but it's so delicious. This next row is our first successful year so far of bush pea germination. Now, like I said, these are a bush variety, but they do have like the tendrils to connect like a pole pea would. So hopefully these will bush up and produce and not start looking like they need to be trellised. The beans on the end, I'm not going to walk you down there right now, but the beans on the end are doing really, really well as well. And they're closer to that first batch's size as opposed to the second batch. Beside them, you've got our second planting of potatoes, which is doing really well. We've hilled them up with grass and keeping an eye on them to see if we need to hill them again. I would say as far as our potatoes, we've had like a 95% germination rate. I'm really, really pleased with this year's potatoes. This is the same planting of potatoes as that first batch, but you can see that they're starting to get blooms too. And so I'm not in any hurry to harvest off of this batch because the next row over is what we've been harvesting off of. But the companion bean planting that we've done, they're doing well. So we'll see how they do. This next row is the row that has just brought me complete excitement and joy over the last couple of weeks. We've been able to harvest fresh spring potatoes off of this batch. And this row of potatoes has started blooming. I would say that these potatoes, when you stand next to them, are like hip height almost. They are just tall. They're flowering beautifully. So it won't be long till this whole row and a half need to be pulled out so we can succession plant with them. But we've just been coming out as we need a potato here or a potato there, and just been digging under the ones that have flowers. This poor plant met the cow's hoof the other day. So let's see how it's doing. I've already pulled a couple off of this one. I may have pulled all the ones off of this. Let's cover this one back up and go over here to this other one. All right, so this one has a flower. The flower is just a sign that the plant is starting to put on fruit under the root. If you're wanting bigger potatoes, you wouldn't want to harvest the potatoes until the plant actually dies back, because then the potatoes completely stopped growing. All right, so these are like perfect little sizes. They're tender, they're soft. You can use them for hash or fried potatoes or boiled potatoes. So these are like just lovely. And after having a year last year where we lost every single potato but maybe half a gallon or half a 5-gallon bucket, these are just, they make you super excited. All right, so my broccoli plants are getting huge. I'm hoping that they'll soon start putting on heads before it gets really, really hot again. So like I said, I need to get in here and weed so that they form lovely, lovely heads. This is the batch of spring garlic I planted, and I'm really pleased with the germination on these. These guys are looking really good. My fall garlic actually has started putting on scapes, so that is going to be ready to harvest those soon, and then soon be ready to harvest the actual garlic bulbs, which is awesome because fresh garlic is super delicious. My nasturtium plants everywhere are starting to flower and spread their lovely vines, so those are just going to add some beauty and a little spice up peppery flavor. From what I understand, nasturtium flowers are actually edible, and they add like kind of a slight spicy flavor to stuff. Lexi and Spencer and I tried some the other day. They weren't bad. They weren't too spicy for me, but they were pretty good. My everbearing strawberries are starting to send off runners, so I'm going to keep an eye on those and get in here and weed. And then my other bits of spring garlic that I planted, they've all started to show signs of germination, which is exciting because I was not expecting, based on what was going on about 2 weeks ago, that there would be much germination on those at all, but they've popped through and they're starting to look really, really good. Our sugar snap peas are blooming lovely, and soon we're going to be able to pull sugar snap pods off. Got one here that's almost ready. I'm gonna let them get a little bit bigger so they're a little juicier, but these guys are just so pretty, and their blooms are just really, really fun to look at. We are still eating heavily out of our kale and our Swiss chard and our lettuces. The spinach has officially gone to bolt. I've just kind of given up on spinach until fall, which is fine. But our lettuce, we've had a couple start to go to bolt, so I've pulled the leaves off to help keep them from being bitter as much as we can. But I'm really thrilled with this lettuce. This is the first time I've ever grown this mix. It's a crimson something mix. But it's just been lovely. It's good. It's not bitter like some collared lettuces are. And then the Waldman's dark green lettuce. I love this for wilted salad. It's so good. But where we've had kind of a mild summer, late spring, early summer, the lettuce and stuff is just, it's not gotten bitter yet. It's still edible. It's lovely. Our onion bulbs are starting to really want to go to bolt. So I'm going to come through and heavily harvest the greens and dehydrate those. I'm going to keep these little ones going because they're looking like they're starting to put on pretty little bulbs. These are the ones I started from seed, so I'm going to let those go, but then I will probably start a bunch of onion seeds in the greenhouse very soon, so maybe we can actually get some bulbs. Some of these look like they've bulbed up pretty good, but we'll go through, heavily harvest the greens, dehydrate those, and then hopefully get a late round of onions going before fall. Excuse me. These are those dead-rooted strawberries I was telling you guys about. These ones have the most blossoms, the most blooms of all of the strawberries. It's just incredible to me how these guys have bounced back, and they're just looking lovely. Almost every single plant has a blossom or a bloom on it. My arugula actually stopped bolting, so I've been throwing that in our salad mixes as well. And then during that last video, I showed you just a real brief shot of these peppers and tomato plants. These were the ones that just I had forgotten to get in the ground, and I wasn't anticipating much. Look how pretty these guys are starting to become. They're still little. They're going to produce probably later than the other row, but almost every single one of these little plants is really looking like they're going to start thriving. Like, look at that one. It's so beautiful. Like, to give you, they were barely as big as like my pinky when I put these guys in, and they've bounced back. And then these little peppers, they're hanging on. They're hanging on. They're still little, but hopefully they'll bounce back. And then the last thing in this row is this last row of strawberries. They're doing good. The leaves are really, really big. We're not getting a lot of blooms on them yet, but they're getting big. They're looking very healthy and bushy. So hopefully they'll put out some strawberries here as well. But overall, I'm just really, really thrilled with just the balance of beauty and practicality and fun, but also like food and deliciousness that I feel is going to start coming out of our gardens. And just this year, it overall just feels like success, and this year our garden is going to thrive, feed our family, and be a fun place to hang out. So thanks for joining me on our almost mid-June garden tour. I hope that your garden season is going well, and that you're out growing something. We'll see you in the next video.